Hi everyone. Today we welcome to Currie Conversations Dr Erik Simmons. And Erik and Currie work together on a behaviour change project in Indonesia. Erik, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and the work that we've done.
Sure, Mark. Thank you. So my name is Erik Simmons, and I have an expertise in behavioral change and behavioral science. And what that means is just my work focuses on an understanding of why people do what they do, and then a focus on using those insights to create positive changes that we desire and we would like to see in the societies that we all live and operate in. So the work that I was fortunate enough to work on, collaborate with Currie Communications, was to work with coastal communities in Southeast Asia, primarily Indonesia and the Philippines, and start to understand some of the issues they were having around sustainability and health, and then work with them, collaborate with those communities to develop sustainable interventions that they could take ownership over to help them make the behavioral changes that they saw fit in their communities.
Now, you talk about there's a need for taking a bottom-up approach to behaviour change. And what do you mean by that? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I think the premise, the heart and essence of the bottom-up approach to behavioral science is we can never really undervalue the contributions every individual can make toward change in a population. Now, what I mean by that is we look at a lot of the solutions out there in society today around climate, around health, all these issues that we're currently facing, and a lot of them are driven by top-down approaches. And that can look like political levers, economic mechanisms, technology solutions that are going to come in and save us all. But my question always there is, how does that convert to populations? How can we do our best to make sure that every individual, every community is interacting with the process of change and being able to engage with the process of change? And I think that's where behavioral science comes in and is an important tool.
Now, in the intervention that you pilot tested and validated in Indonesia, you actually targeted women. Why did you do that?
Yeah, so it was a pretty unique finding in our initial diagnosis work of the problems happening in the communities we were working with. But what we found was that women were such powerful role models, examples, and social transmitters of behaviors. Now, behavior, Mark, like many things, transmits, propagates, if you will, through social networks and social learning. So when you want a behavior to stick in a population and when you want a behavior to spread in a population, you need to target the social nodes, the social agents who are going to spread that behavior the best. Now, what we found was that the women in the communities we were working in were the decision makers of the household. They were the ones who were in the household communicating with family members, friends, doing a lot of the bottom up, if you will, work, Mark, of the behavior change in their communities. So we found them to be the best agents of change for the interventions that we were creating.
Wow, okay. Now for the Seacrest project, the target behaviours, I think if I remember correctly, were destructive fishing practices, which like cyanide poisoning of fish on coral reefs, fertiliser bombs to blow up the coral reefs so that the fish float to the top and they're easy to catch. And there was also management of plastic waste. So there were environmental impacts that we were seeking to influence. But although they were environmental behaviours that were targeted, the project wasn't really all about the environment, was it?
That's exactly right, Mark. I think that's spot on, and you're right. Environment, of course, was an important outcome. Improving the health of the coastal ecosystems around these communities was vital to the success of our project. However, what the bottom line we were seeking to get out of this was creating a better future for generations to come. And that was the big sell and motivator to a lot of our participants, not just the health of the ecosystem, but it really was about creating a future in which that their children could thrive, achieve the goals that they wanted their children to achieve, and all these great things that we all want for our children and future generations. And the notion here, or the idea, is that the same psychological behavioral factors and underlying mechanisms that drive positive sustainable behaviors can translate and generalize over to behaviors that are associated with health, building positive relationships, as well as attaining any other positive outcomes we might see in our lives.
Now, what blew me away about the research is that as a novice in this area, you know, we think about the behaviour, we think about the environment, but in the intervention, one of the things that really surprised me is the strategy for targeting the skills and capacity of the women in these coastal communities on problem solving, goal setting, positive thinking, you know, even having difficult conversations with their husbands around smoking, for example. It was sort of like an empowerment project. I mean, is that typical of, you know, every behavioural science change project?
Oh, Mark, I would say absolutely not. However, I think the trend is moving in that direction. I would never think in a million years that we would be fortunate enough to be involved in an experience like this. And the one thing I will say about the work that I'm proud of, and I'm sure you are as well, is the degree of comprehensiveness, the degree of, you know, the pioneering nature of the experience that we had in saying we were trying to really impact multiple domains of these individuals' lives, with them being change makers and agents, authors of their own stories. So I think that the field is moving more towards this. However, it's not quite seen yet, this full comprehensive approach. And these are factors and skills of life that are extremely fundamental, but oftentimes overlooked in their effectiveness in creating positive changes in communities and populations.
Now, although this work was done in a developing country, Indonesia, and also in the Philippines, in what we call maybe low resource settings, you know, the lessons and insights that are generated from your work, do they hold true for community-based behaviour change projects in a developed country?
Absolutely, Mark. I think the lesson to take away here is we're all human. And fortunately for us, as a species, there are a lot more commonalities than there are differences. So some of these psychological factor skills that we were targeting, in fact, I would go out on a limb and say all of the psychological skills and factors we were targeting will translate across the globe and be important to the development of psychological skills, healthy habits and behaviors, and positive health and environmental outcomes across countries, across different cultures, across languages, you name it. So I think we know enough about human behavior at this stage. These psychological and behavioral tools can be used in communities across the world to empower different communities and different populations to start chasing the outcomes that they find desirable to themselves.
So Erik, Currie was thrilled and very proud to be a partner in the Seacrest project. And personally, I learnt so much from you working on behaviour change. Thank you for that opportunity and for the elegant simplicity. I know you love those terms of the design behaviour change project. And we wish you so much goodwill for the rest of your career. You know, you're a champion for sustainability, and it's been a pleasure and honour to work with you.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. And once again, this, of course, would not be possible without Currie Communication, you, Paula, the whole team. I'm deeply grateful, and I appreciate the opportunity today to get on and reminisce and reflect on our great times, adventures in our favorite coastal communities in Indonesia and the Philippines. So I'm very grateful, very fortunate to be here. It's been great catching up. Thank you so much.